Alright, this is going to be a quick demo on what I've been working on since my last video. So basically I have built a world generator for like the action platformer genre, full of all kinds of settings. I'll show you a few types of things we can generate with this. So to start, I'll just generate a world with default settings. So here is the kind of thing we can make. So this is like a linear world. It's one long chain. It will never, intersect with itself or anything like that. So we can make all kinds of worlds like this. Let me just turn on this setting so we can actually see it construct itself. So as you can see, it's sort of able to like unwind itself when it gets backed into a corner. When it tries to run into itself, it can kind of rewind. It has a whole system for that, so it'll always find a solution no matter what happens. So I'm just going to show you, I guess, a few different sort of styles of things we could generate with this. So let's see. If I do something like this. So here's like a, I don't know, like a staircase hell kind of thing. Or we could do something like, um, all right, so this is, I don't know, like a, curvy, flat kind of thing. And just to be clear, this might look like a slow algorithm while we're visualizing it, right? But it's not actually slow, right? We can easily crunch these out. It's just that it slows down to let us visualize. So we got a whole bunch of settings. So the first thing is it's seed based, so it's deterministic. We can get the same world from the same seed if ever we wanted to manually put a seed in. Um, we have aversion to repetition, which is basically like if this is at 1 at the maximum, then the same module won't be likely to be used in quick succession. Like when something's been used, it won't likely show up for a little while again. But if this is at 0, it would not respect that recency bias. We can do things like, here, let me just add these settings back in real quick. Okay, so we can do things like ban, say, medium and complex modules and create like a really simple world that's like primitive like this. We can do things like, say, we only want the world to be like sharp angles, no problem. Or maybe we want it to be, only rounded or whatever. If we wanted it to allow any kind of, angles, rounded, whatever, then we can also specify a preference, like prefer rounded, and then here we can say like how much I prefer rounded. So I could say I really prefer rounded, like with a value of 5. And then you see most things here are now rounded, but we still get like some square geometry, right? So the first thing is kind of like banning things entirely, like pruning all the legal modules that can be used. And then the second thing is like a bias or a preference saying like of the things that are still allowed, like what do we prefer over other things? The same can be done for like this. So I could say, for example, only allow sparse modules. Well, that's like these thin stringy ones, right? Or I can say like, oops, I can say, nah, I want like only like larger ones, right? So now it's like wider spaces that have more area to move around on, that kind of a thing. Here we have sort of like ascending, descending, flat. So if I allow all of them, then whoop, you'll see the world can like go up, it can go down or whatever, but with just flats, it's always going to be on one plane. Or like we saw before, we can do something like, like a only ascending, that kind of a thing. Similarly, we have like straight, right, left, back. So if we want it to be like a really simple world, I could say, for example, force it to be, where is it? There it is. Force it to be straight, or I could say like, it can go straight and right. That's kind of a, I guess that's actually a really weird one because it's gonna have little options to untangle itself because it can only turn right or go straight. It'll work it out eventually though because it can like keep backing up and trying again, but it might take a while. So I'll cancel that. I'll allow it to also go left. Now we can get like some snaking pretty easily, that kind of a thing. There's also U-turns. So if I allow like just straight and U-turns, we can get like this kind of geometry. Um, Again, it has few options to unwind itself, but you can see eventually it'll always sort itself out because it has that rewinding system, so it will never like run into itself. It's kind of like a blind person playing Snake, but the rewinding system helps it always find a solution. So what else do we have? I guess we're getting pretty close to the end. We can control whether we want all of our modules to have like perfect matching for the sizes. So what I mean by that is like if I generate a world right now, so like for example here you can see these two modules have different sizes, so the place they meet like has this kind of geometry, right? Well, if you don't like that, we can always get rid of that by just forcing it to be matched. And now everything is going to be like, you know, smooth kind of connections, but it limits how many things can be attached to how many other kinds of things, you know, because there's just modules that have different size exits and entrances. And then we also have, here, let me turn this off. We also have fully mismatched rather than mismatched but centered. So fully mismatched allows there to be modules that are like offset with how they connect to each other, you know, like this or whatever. But they'll never be like, they'll always be within each other's bounds. They'll never be fully like overhanging the edge or anything like that. What else do we have? Module drop chance. So here I'll make this really simple so we can see what's going on with this. So here's just a regular like flat world. But then if I were to say module drop chance is like 100%, for example, well, now you can see that every module is like offset straight below the one before, and that allows, you know, the player to like run off the end of one and land on the next, which some of the games that we're kind of targeting include. And we can control, you know, like let's make the drops like 1 to 10 meters and only 1 out of 10 modules actually has a drop or whatever. Well, then now you can see every now and then we'll get a drop, you know, different size, that kind of a thing, whatever. Important one here is player settings. So for example, if I say that the player has the ability to jump, then if I generate a world, that will allow modules that require jumping to traverse, you know, like these guys here or whatever. But if I were to say, well, they can't jump, generate a world, you can see there's no such modules. Similarly, if I say like, well, the player is able to like wall run or whatever, or something like this, well then it's at least possible when the world generates to get modules that are wall run modules. I don't even think we got one this time, but here. So here's a wall run module. That would not be possible if I had turned that off. The world will always be without, you know, modules that require whatever kinds of abilities we don't have. And moreover, we can also specify a recommended abilities bias. So modules don't only specify what abilities are required to get through them, they also have sets of abilities that make them more fun. If that's the case, then you can crank up this variable, and that will make the algorithm prefer modules that have recommended abilities matching the player's abilities. And finally, we can ban reuse of different module types. So right now we're banning the reuse of complex module types. And basically that is like modules like this one that are, I guess, distinctive, so that if they were to appear multiple times in the world, it would kind of like feel inorganic, and it would reveal that we're really just like playing Legos with pre-made pieces. So if we choose, say, ban complex from reuse, that means that anything that's like distinctive, like this grand staircase or things like that, will only ever appear at a maximum of 1 time per world. So that is pretty much all of the settings that we have. We can easily grow this system in a couple ways. For one, we could just add more of these types of settings and tag all of the existing modules with more data that would allow the algorithm to differentiate between these in different ways, in addition to, you know, like geometric feel, complexity, surface area, abilities, and all that. Anything else we can think of, we could easily add to this and have like pruning, as well as like the preference kind of thing, like prefer sparse, and then, you know, this scalar here. That kind of a setup is easy to add for anything we can think of. And the other way to easily scale this system is simply to make more modules. So I've pumped out I guess about 100, I think 102 modules, but I can easily make more. They're pretty quick to produce. And obviously, the more modules there are, the more rich the content of this generator will be. So if I, double this set, it'll be able to make a whole bunch more kinds of fields and types of worlds pretty easily. So in my opinion, that's the easiest way to kind of improve and grow the system from this point on. Is just to pump out more modules in addition to all the ones that we have here. But anyways, that's it. That is a quick look at my new system. I hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next video.